Welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman. Today we're going to be going over 5 mistakes that budget players make when playing their decks. Not necessarily the cards you're inserting, but how you're playing it. First up, we have don't play Soul Ring on turn 1 unless you have something to do with it. Because what I often see is somebody will have a Croson Verge that they play on turn 2 that comes in tapped, but they played their Soul Ring on turn 1. It's most of the time going to be better in that situation to play your tapped Myriad Landscape or Croson Verge on turn 1. Turn 2, you play your land, you tap that land for Soul Ring, and then use that mana to sink into Croson Verge's ability or Myriad Landscape, and you tap that, which sacrifices itself to get 2 more lands onto the battlefield. Turn 2 Soul Rings are less intimidating, and you getting that mana right away is going to be more important than just playing a Soul Ring on turn 1, passing, and everybody instantly targeting you for the rest of the game because you had a turn 1 Soul Ring. Second mistake I often see players make is they use their filter lands last and their filter signets last. And the problem with that is you need to have 1 mana to sink into it to be able to use its mana ability. So if you're using it last and you don't have that mana, it's wasted mana. It's untapped. You have 2 untapped mana then that you can't use. But if you use it right away for your first spell, then you know you have the mana to sink into it, and you'll have 1 or 2 mana left over, in theory, to at the very least bluff a counter spell or removal, and that's better than having not arcane signet, but a filter land that can't do anything. That's most of the time going to be the case. Sometimes it might be better to leave it up, but you definitely are going to want to have at least 1 extra land or mana to sink into it to be able to use it. Third mistake players make is they don't play enough modal or cycling lands. They don't like that they come in tapped or something, so they just don't run it, and they try to get by with the bare minimum lands. And the problem is some games you might get by with that, but Magic the Gathering is a game of variance. Some games you're going to wish you had at least a tap land to get through to your next turn, or to play in the future so you don't miss your land drops. But the modal lands are getting better and better. They just printed a whole bunch of Modern Horizon 3, and a lot of them are coming at common, uncommon, so those should be pretty affordable for most budget decks. As far as cycling lands, they just help you not to be mana flooded, and if it's going to come in tapped, I honestly prefer the dual cycling lands. But if you're in a monocolored deck or 2-color deck, I could see running a couple of the monocolored cycling that cycle for 1. And the fourth mistake people make is they don't play enough Graveyard Hate. If you have only 1 card that can interact with the graveyard, the odds of you drawing it without a tutor are basically 1%. 1 in 99 cards in the deck. And you can increase that, sure, by having more draw and whatever tutors, but having more than 1 is going to be more helpful, especially because if it gets removed, there's a lot of different types of Graveyard Hate, and they have been printing better and better Graveyard Hate to fill more strategies. You got Graveyard Hate in the Mana Dork slot. You got Graveyard Hate in enchantments, artifacts, creatures, even planeswalkers. So pretty much any style of deck you're playing, you can find a way to get the Graveyard Hate in there. And even if you for some reason can't, there's lands that do it. And as far as what type of Graveyard Hate, that's going to be up to you, whether you want to exile graveyards, make it so players can't play or cast spells from graveyards, or just incrementally exile so many cards from graveyards. There's a lot of different ways to interact with the graveyard, but Wizards keeps printing more and more precons and cards that use the graveyard. It's never going to go away. It's a powerful strategy because it becomes their second hand. And the longer the game goes, more likely the stronger their decks will get. Last, players do not play enough targeted land removal, and I know it's been hit by a lot of other YouTubers and podcast creators, and they're right. But again, I'm telling you, don't just put one in there. You're not going to see it most games. Even having a second or third one in there can make a huge difference, because then you're talking about one card in every 33 cards if you have 3 of them. So that's much higher chances than 1 in 99 if you only had one. Again, Wizards are printing more and more targeted removal for lands, and it could be in anything. It could be in a generous gift, which says destroy target permanent. It could be in your land slot. My preferred land slots are Tectonic Edge and Ghost Quarter, because they only require 1 to no mana. Tectonic Edge requires 1 mana and tapping it, so in a way 2 mana to destroy target land, but that does not give anybody else a land, so you and that opponent will go down 1 land, and other opponents won't. So you guys do go down a little bit, but I don't like giving everybody free lands, especially because of landfall decks. If you're helping fix their colors, so Ghost Quarter does give them the 1 land replacement, so then you go down. But I accept that because you're not using this on a dual colored land. You're using this on the powerful lands like Glacial Chasm, Merit Lage. Uh, if for some reason you're playing somebody who's got a Gaia's Cradle or whatever, there's a lot of powerful lands. Maybe you are playing a graveyard deck and you see they have a Scavenger Ground. And it might be nice to be able to get rid of that Scavenger Ground before you start filling up your graveyard, especially because you might see that they don't have enough mana to activate Scavenger Ground, so they can't just exile all graveyards in response. So I definitely think if you're playing a graveyard deck, you should be absolutely play more graveyard or land hate for that reason, because lots of people do play Scavenger Ground. But I do think in general you need to play more than just 1 graveyard removal. So play these cards and improve your decks, improve your playing style. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.